friends, welcome back to my class. Today we are going to study Sylvia Plath's poem Daddy. Sylvia Plath, as we know, is one of the most enigmatic and a representative poet of the troubled souls from 20th century. She is also considered as one of the pioneering figures for establishing the genre of confessional poetry. And according to the critic Theodore Dalrymple, she is the patron saint of self-dramatization and self-pity. Though she died very early at the very young age of 30, but her poetry and particularly the poems of her last phase of life established her as one of the most capable poet who can express the inexpressible emotions with very accurate words. And as a poet, if we look at the career of Plath, we find that in her mature work there is a deliberate use of everyday life details as raw materials, and by using that she brings into focus the various references and images to explore the complexities of emotions or feelings. Her poetry mostly deal with the domestic surreal that takes away everyday elements of life by twisting the images and making them a nightmarish quality. Her poetry broadly represents desperation of death wish and or depression as an individual. This poem, Daddy, is a part of our anthology Ariel, which was published in 1965, up 3 years after her death. And this poem itself is a very brutal style of representing the complex relationship between father and daughter, man and woman, the aggressor and the aggressed, and so on. By looking at that very title, we can easily comprehend the idea that why it is Daddy. So it is both ironical as well as having a sense of satisfying her crave for the relationship that she herself called as the Electra complex. So this poem is also considered as one of her strange and terrible poems. The subject of this poem is her morbid love-hate relationship with her father. The style is brutal and there is a sense of ferociousness that blends fear, hatred, love, death, and fused with her own identity. Through the figure of her father, she expresses the guilt of the German exterminators and the sufferings of their Jewish victims during the Second World War. The poem very uncompromisingly charts the female rage, ambivalence, and grief. So it is not a simple poem of father-daughter relationship, but also very vividly it depicts the gender disparity, the subjugation of women, the dominance of the patriarchy, as well as it brings into focus the sufferings and agonies of Holocaust of 20th century. So let us go to the poem Daddy. You do not do any more black shoe in which I have lived like a foot for 30 years, poor and white, barely daring to breathe or achoo. So the very first stanza, it sounds like that of the school rhymes, primary school rhymes. You do not do anymore black shoe. So you do not do, it immediately suggests, it immediately refers to the patriarchal hegemony, the parental admonition to the child. You do not do. The sense of discrimination, the sense of dominance is coming in a very simple, childlike manner. Black shoe in which I have lived like a foot. She is bringing the image of black shoe for her father. And as we know, black shoe represents a structure that is the patriarchy. And as a father, how he dealt with the daughter. So she is comparing her father with the black shoe, which is not sensible to the child, to the daughter. Rather, it represents the patriarchal structure in which I have lived like a foot for 30 years. And she is representing the foot within the black shoe, within the structure. The daughter is living for 30 years. She cannot simply overthrow, she cannot simply outgrow her father's influence in the childhood. For 30 years, poor and white, and she is poor and white. Here, poor is not the economic poverty, but it is the poverty of love, emotion, genuine feelings that she has been deprived of. And white, and here white represents lack of any color, lack of any real feelings, lack of any meaningful relationship, barely daring to breathe at you. And she is feeling that how her childhood was nightmarish, that even she couldn't breathe or sneeze without being conscious of her father's presence. And here, this very first stanza, if we look from another German writer, Franz Kafka's letter to father, it almost represents the same feelings of Franz towards his father, the domineering father. In the second stanza, we find, Daddy, I have had to kill you. You died before I had time. So, as a growing up daughter, she wanted to kill her father. It is not killing physically, but it is killing psychologically to grow out of the father's influence. But you died before I had time. But before I could grow my courage, grow my maturity, to grow out of your influences, you have died. In real life, her father, Plath, had died when she was 10 years old. Marble heavy, a bag full of God. And how she visualizes her father? Like marble heavy, suggesting a grand statue, a great statue, white, flawless, heavy, that can never be distorted, that can never be paused. So, she could never dismantle the influence and power of her father throughout her life. A bag full of God. Another imagery. A bag full of God. Her father was like a God. He was inviolable. You can't contradict. You can't discuss. You can't debate. Patriarchy, fatherhood is beyond all these. So, a bag full of God, a ghastly statue with one great toe, big as a fresco shield. But the next moment she is telling that in spite of your domineering stature, in spite of your inviolable presence, your statue looks ghastly. It is referring to her father's severe disease, the gangrene in his foot before his death. Ghastly statue with one great toe, when one of the toes was infected by the disease, big as a fresco seal. It inflated like a seal, the sea creature. And Frisco is one of the states of America, the coast of America, where the seal is compared with the animal, sea animal is compared with the toe of her father. And a head in the freakish Atlantic, where it pours began being green over blue in the waters of beautiful Nauset. Then she is comparing her father with a giant figure. From the child's, from the small daughter's perspective, the father looks so big, so huge, just similarly like that of Franz's idea about his father. Big, powerful. The head in the freakish Atlantic, if the head of her father was in the Atlantic, where it pours been green over blue, where both the green and blue color merge. Atlantic Ocean consists of both the colors of water, green and blue. So, if her father's head is in the Atlantic, in the waters of beautiful Nauset, in the waters of the province of Nauset, I used to pray to recover you, to As a child, I wanted to pray, to recover you, to find where is my father. My father is so big that I cannot claim my father. So as a child, she wanted to claim her father from this big manifestation over nature, over sea, as do I see. In the German tongue, in the police town, script flat by the roller of wars, wars, wars. And she's also not comfortable with the language of her father, who was actually a German migrant to USA. So in the German tongue, she was also not comfortable with the German language, and she found in the police town scrapped flat by roller of wars, 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 that in the Second World War, the Nazis in the German, who claimed that they were superior to all the races of mankind, they attacked Poland, and particularly they put the police Jews in concentration camps, tortured them. So there was wars, wars, wars. But the name of the town is common. My Polak friend says there are a dozen or two. And as a daughter, she wanted to know from which province of Germany her father came to America. Where was the root? But she finds that in this German language, the names of the different cities or towns, they look almost similar, because she could not comprehend the meanings. She could not differentiate between one name and another in German. And her Polak friend, the police friend, told her that there are a dozen or two, so I never could tell where you put your foot, your root. I never could talk to you. The tongue stuck in my jaw. That all these German cities, they sound similar. Therefore, she could not know, she couldn't find out from which German town her father originated. Put your foot, your root. Where was his root? I never could talk to you, and I didn't have the courage even to talk to you about that in my childhood. The tongue stuck in my jaw. So that language, it stuck somewhere in my jaw. I couldn't even learn out of fear the German language, the language of her father. And in the whole world, when all the nations they talk about, when all the people they talk about motherland, it is only the Germans who talk about the fatherland. And here she is exhibiting her miserable failure to adopt that spirit by telling, I never could talk to you. The tongue stuck in my jaw. It stuck in a barbed wire snare, as if it stuck in a barbed wire. The barbed wire here brings the reference to the concentration camps where the Jews were kept and tortured to death. Itch, 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 itch. This repetition of this sound is suggesting the suffering of being imprisoned in the concentration camps from where you cannot escape. It is the inescapability. I could hardly speak, as those Jewish sufferers could not escape. So from my mouth, the sound could not escape. I couldn't utter the German language. I thought every German was you. Therefore, I thought all the Germans and you, there is no difference. Here, Sylvia Plath is projecting her father as the representative Nazi, the spirit of the Nazi. And it is not only the Nazi spirit, but it is also the spirit of the patriarch, the domineering spirit, and the language of sin. And she considers the German language as obscene, as she considers all the Germans as aggressors, domineering people. An engine chuffing me off like a Jew. And the German language to her emerges as an engine, the rail engine, chuffing me off like a Jew, as if it is carrying the Jews to the concentration camps. So the language of German is taking away Sylvia from self-expression towards imprisonment. Because language is to express, but she is not finding this language suitable for expression. Rather, this language is suffocating her emotions. A Jew to Dachu, Auschwitz, Belsen. I began to talk like a Jew. I think I may well be a Jew. Sure. To her, all these three cities, which were known for, famous for, the concentration camps where millions of Jews were executed, I began to talk like a Jew. So, with your company, under your influence, I felt as if I am a Jew. I think I may well be a Jew. I am so helpless as the Jews were under the Nazis. The snows of the Tyrol, the clear beard of Vienna are not very pure or true. Then she is comparing her mother's side, her mother, exactly like Franz Kafka's letter, where he compares her mother's side, the Louise, with the Kafka's. So here she is comparing the snows of the Tyrol, the clear beer of Vienna are not very pure or true. So the police people, because her mother comes from Poland, from Austria. So she is telling they are also not very pure or true. I am not telling that my mother's side, they are also not very pure, very true. With my gypsy ancestress and my weird luck and my tarot pack I may be a bit of a Jew. And from my mother's side also I knew that my ancestress, they were gypsy. And my weird luck, and I am born a mixture between the German and Austrian, between the Aryan and the Jew, and my tarot pack. And I also inherit that belief of the Jewish people who believed in these ways of prediction, ways of calculating the future by tarot. So my tarot pack, I may be a bit of a Jew. Somewhere within me, there is also a bit of the Jew. I have always been scared of you, with your look-to-it and your gobbledygook, and your neat moustache, and your Aryan eye, bright blue. Again, she is coming back to her fear for her father as a child, and how that fear is continuing till she has grown up to be a 30-year-old woman. Therefore, I have always been scared of you. I am always scared. With your Luftwaffe, it was the Air Force of Germany, which was a terror in the whole world during the Second World War. It was considered as invincible. So, the very sense of terror of the Luftwaffe, she discovered in her father. Your gobbledygook, it was the media of the Germans which spread the news of dominance, the news of war, how they are gobbling up the whole world, how Hitler is swallowing the whole world. So here it is, she is considering that all the talks of her father about uprightness, morality, values, systems, she is considering it as nonsense, as the media of Germans during the Second World War, which was spreading so many false things. And your neat moustache and your Aryan eye, bright blue. Here, she is bringing out the figure of her father with that moustache, very prominently being displayed on her Aryan face with Aryan eye, bright blue. Panzer man, oh you not God but a swastika, so black no sky could squeak through. And he was like a Panzer man, not God but a swastika. But in spite of all these figures being described, creating a sense of fear and terror, trying to establish uprightness, she is telling that you are not a god, but a swastika. Swastika is a symbol, is a sign. The Aryan sign, the Nazi sign of supremacy, but you are not God. So here she is rejecting, the rejection is coming. So black no sky could squeak through, you are so black, so dark, that no sky could squeak through, that means no light, no truth. Nothing can come through it. You are so domineering, you are so partisan, you are so one-dimensional that you don't have any scope for growth of any relationship. Therefore, no sky could squeak through. Every woman adores a fascist. She is telling that you are a fascist, and if you claim that women love you, every woman loves a fascist. Why? Here comes into play the gender equation. She is telling that women who are acquainted with the patriarchal dominance, they fall in love with a patriarchal figure. Therefore, every woman adores a fascist, they love the fascist, they love the patriarchy, they love the dominant. The victim falls in love with the victimizer because she is acquainted with that person only. She is born and brought up in that system. Brute, the boot in the face, the brute heart of a brute like you. And here she is very dismissive. She is very much rejecting any superiority in her father by telling the boot in the face, your face is having the boot. Boot means that crosses. Your language, your words, they crush each and everything before you. You dominate. You don't listen to anyone. The brute heart of a brute like you. You stand at the blackboard, Daddy, in the picture I have of you. Then she remembers, because Plath was a professor in the university. So she remembers one of the photographs from her childhood where her daddy was teaching the students in a classroom with a blackboard. And you stand at the blackboard, Daddy, in the picture I have of you. That means it is the picture of a teacher who should be having all the virtues of the world. But what she finds in that picture? A cleft in your chin instead of your foot. In your chin there is a cleft. And the cleft in the chin symbolizes what? Violence. So that picture, even with the image of a teacher, a professor, is having the cleft in the chin that suggests the violence in the character, in the personality. Instead of your foot, cleft in the foot suggests devilishness. Devil is having the cleft in the foot. But she is telling, you may not be a devil, but you are neither God nor a good human being. But no less a devil for that. No, not any less the black man who beat my pretty red heart in two. But you are not less than a devil for that. You are not less than devil, though you are not the devil. No, not any less the black man who beat my pretty red heart in two. And here she is bringing the comparison to her husband. And she is telling, you are no less devil than that black man, though her husband Ted Hughes was not a black man, he was an American, white American, but here black man is suggesting the bad man, the man who is again a symbol of patriarchy, who dominates, who beats the wife, who puts the wife to her place. I was 10 when they buried you. At 20, I tried to die. She is recounting that how she traveled her journey from her father to her husband. I was 10 when they buried you. At the age of 10, I lost you. At 20, I tried to die. At the age of 20, I attempted to commit suicide and get back to you. And why I wanted to die? Because I wanted to go back to you, to the world of death, to the kingdom of death. I wanted to be united with you because you have dominated my soul in such a manner that even though I do not love you, but I couldn't exist without you. So I wanted to go back to you through death. I wanted to commit suicide. I thought even the bones should do. Even I wanted that if I would die through suicide, at least I can lie beside your grave, beside your bones, and that will at least give me the comfort that I am with you. But they pulled me out of the sack and they stuck me together with glue. But these people, they didn't allow me to die. They pulled me out of the sack, pulled me out of that state of dying and stuck me together with glue. They brought me back to life as if they have joined my mind, my heart with my body, which was completely deranged, completely disintegrated. They wanted to integrate them by joining through glue. And then I knew what to do. I made a model of you, a man in black with a men camp look. So what I wanted to do, I wanted that if I cannot meet you in my death, at least I will meet you in my life. So I made a model of you, a man in black with a men camp look. So I choose a man whom I married as my husband, a man in black with men camp look, men camp, the Nazi leader Hitler with Hitlerian look, and a love of the rack and the screw, and a love of the rack and the screw. And this man, he had also the love of the rack and the screw. Again, the structure. My father, who was representing the black shoe, the structure, my husband was also a lover of the rack and the screw, who wanted to erect the structure once again. And I said, I do, and I obliged, I obeyed like a woman, like a wife. So Daddy, I am finally through. So finally, I found you through my husband. The same type, the same man who dominates over woman. The black telephones off at the root. the voices just can't come through. And finally, in this manner, I wanted to go away from the thought and remembrance of you. Black telephones off at the root, black telephone, which again symbolizes that connection with the root that has been disconnected, because I have found you in the form of my husband. The voices just can't run through, so I couldn't reach to you anymore. Your voices could not reach to me anymore. But I have been acquainted with the voices of my husband, which was not much different from you. If I have killed one man, I have killed two. So now, if I have killed one man, if I will kill anyone, either you or my husband, I will kill you. Both will be killed, because both of you are same. The vampire who said he was you and drank my blood for a year. And she says, my husband was like a vampire who said he was you. He claimed that he is also a man and drank my blood for a year, 7 years if you want to know. And for 7 years, when we were in love, we were in the family, he drank my blood, he exploited me, he suppressed my soul, he didn't allow my spirit to grow beyond. Daddy, you can lie back now. So I have realized that this man is as efficient, as good as you as an operator. So you can lie now. There is nothing to worry on your part. You did not worry about it. There is a stake in your fat black heart, and the villagers never liked you. But in your fat black heart, there is a stake. It is a sign that you are a devil or a devilish person. Therefore, in your fat black heart, there is a stake. And the villagers never liked you. People didn't like you. People always thought ill of you. They are dancing and stamping on you. But now that you are dead, they're dancing and stamping on you. They always knew it was you. And they always knew it was you. You were the devil. You were the person who wanted to bring the iron-handed rule of all relationships, of all socio-individual, interpersonal relationships. Daddy, daddy, you busted, I am through. So finally the poet is telling, daddy, daddy, you busted, you are a bastard. And I am through. Finally, I have been released from your influences. Finally, I am going towards my reach. So in this way, the poem is bringing out one of the most dark tones and bringing out the troubled spirit of the poet to the fore. From the poem, questions can be asked about Sylvia Plath's presentation of father-daughter relationship or man-woman relationship as is presented. Though the poem is not directly dealing with any death wish or any element of death, but there are ample presentations of death, decay, destruction through the reference to the Nazi and Polish relationship, the Jewish relationship, reference of men camp, and so many things, the Holocaust and everything. So this poem is bringing out one of the most complex and nightmarish experiences of the Second World War. Thank you.